Have you ever felt overwhelmed by all the global issues we face today, like climate change and food security and biodiversity loss? It's a lot,
Yeah, it really can feel like a tangled web.
especially if you're preparing for the UPSC exams where
Yeah.
understanding all these interconnected challenges is super important.
It's crucial. Yeah, and that's exactly why this deep dive is so important.
Okay.
We're tackling a report that's kind of like the IPCC, but instead of just climate change, it tackles the whole web of life on Earth.
Whoa.
Biodiversity, ecosystems, and how they're all connected.
Feels like the IPCC for the whole planet.
Exactly. It's called the IPBES Nexus Assessment.
The IPBES Nexus Assessment.
Yeah.
Okay, so for our listeners who might be hearing about the IPBES for the first time, could you give us a quick rundown of what it is and why it matters?
Sure. So think of the IPBES as a global panel of experts,
Okay.
kind of like the world's best doctors coming together for a checkup
Oh,
on the planet's health.
I like that.
They don't do the research themselves, but they analyze all the existing scientific data on biodiversity and ecosystems,
Okay.
and then they present their findings to policymakers.
So they're like the translators, taking
Uh,
complex scientific information
Right,
and making it understandable for the people who can actually make a difference.
precisely.
Yeah.
And what's particularly interesting about this Nexus assessment is that it confirms what a lot of researchers have suspected.
Mm.
These global challenges, they're deeply intertwined.
Okay.
It's like they're pieces of a puzzle.
Yeah.
And if you try and solve one without considering the others, you
Yeah.
might end up making things worse.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like you wouldn't treat a patient's heart problem without considering their diet and exercise, right?
Exactly.
You have to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, the whole system.
But what's the most surprising thing the report reveals about this interconnectedness?
Well, one of the most striking findings is that focusing solely on climate change mitigation without considering the impact on food security and biodiversity could actually backfire.
Oh, wow.
For example, if we just convert vast tracts of land for biofuel production to reduce emissions,
Oh.
it could displace food crops and disrupt ecosystems.
So it's not just about reducing emissions. It's about finding solutions that address multiple challenges at the same time.
That's right.
The report calls these synergistic approaches, right?
Yes.
Could you give us an example of what that might look like in the real world?
Absolutely. Imagine restoring wetlands,
Okay.
which simultaneously improves water quality,
Mm-hmm.
protects coastal communities from storms,
Yeah.
and sequesters carbon.
Wow.
That's hitting a sustainability trifecta.
That's amazing.
The report highlights the potential of these win-win solutions to create a more sustainable and resilient future.
That's a fantastic example, and it's particularly relevant for our UPSC aspirants who need to be able to think critically and propose solutions that address the complexity of these issues.
Right.
The report also talks about the economic impact of biodiversity loss, something that often gets overlooked.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The report states that over half of global GDP,
Whoa.
a staggering $58 trillion annually, depends on nature.
Wow, that's huge.
Biodiversity underpins so many industries, from agriculture and fisheries to tourism and pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So when we lose biodiversity, we're essentially eroding the foundation of our economies.
That's a powerful point. It's not just an environmental issue, it's an economic one as well.
Precisely.
And the report suggests that delaying action on biodiversity conservation will actually double the costs within a decade.
Yeah, the clock is ticking.
So we're talking about a very real economic risk here.
Absolutely.
Wow.
The report emphasizes that investing in nature is not just an ethical imperative,
Right.
but also an economic necessity.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that a healthy planet is the foundation for a thriving economy.
This brings us to another key concept the report highlights: Nexus thinking. What exactly does that mean, and why is it so crucial, especially for those tackling the UPSC exams?
So Nexus thinking is about moving away from siloed approaches to problem solving.
Okay.
It's about understanding that climate change, biodiversity loss, food security, these aren't isolated events,
Yeah.
but interconnected components of a larger system.
Right.
For UPSC aspirants, this means being able to analyze issues from a holistic perspective,
Okay.
considering the social, economic, environmental, and political dimensions of a problem.
It's like connecting the dots, seeing how a decision in one area can have ripple effects across multiple others.
Exactly.
The report seems to be like a gold mine of information for UPSC aspirants,
Yeah.
providing real-world examples and data to back up their arguments.
Absolutely. It's not just about memorizing facts. It's
Bro.
about understanding the interconnectedness of these issues and being able to propose solutions that address the root causes.
So it's a bit like being a detective, right? You have to follow the clues and see where they lead.
That's a great analogy.
And the report provides a roadmap for doing just that.
It does. Yeah, it really does.
So let's say a UPSC question asks about the role of biodiversity in achieving sustainable development goals.
Okay.
How could a candidate use the insights from this report to, formulate a strong answer?
Well, the report explicitly states that over half of the global GDP depends on nature.
Right.
A strong answer would connect this economic dependence with specific sustainable development goals like poverty reduction, food security, and clean water.
Okay.
They could also discuss how the loss of biodiversity can actually undermine progress toward these goals, making it harder to achieve sustainable development.
So it's about showing the examiners that you understand the link between a healthy planet and a healthy society.
Yes.
And how biodiversity plays a crucial role in that equation.
Exactly. The report also delves into the drivers of biodiversity loss,
Okay.
linking them to unsustainable consumption patterns, economic systems that prioritize short-term gains over long-term sustainability, and even social inequities.
That's really insightful. It's not just about protecting species. It's about addressing the underlying systems and behaviors that are driving biodiversity loss in the first place.
Precisely. And this ties into the report's emphasis on transformative change.
Okay.
It's not enough to just tweak the existing system.
Yeah.
We need a fundamental shift in our values, behaviors, and systems to create a truly sustainable future.
This concept of transformative change seems particularly relevant for UPSC aspirants, who are often asked to propose solutions to complex problems.
Right.
What are the key elements of transformative change as highlighted in the report?
So the report outlines 4 key principles for achieving transformative change.
Okay.
Equity and justice, pluralism and inclusion,
Okay.
respectful human-nature relationships, and adaptive learning and action.
Okay, let's unpack those a bit, especially for our UPSC audience.
Sure.
What do those principles look like in practice?
Well, equity and justice means ensuring that the benefits and burdens of environmental management are distributed fairly. For example, when implementing conservation policies, we need to make sure they don't disproportionately impact marginalized communities,
Right.
who often rely more directly on natural resources.
So it's about recognizing that environmental issues are also social justice issues,
Yeah.
and that solutions need to be equitable and inclusive.
Absolutely. Pluralism and inclusion emphasize the importance of diverse perspectives and knowledge systems in decision-making.
Okay.
We need to move away from top-down approaches and involve local communities, indigenous peoples, and other stakeholders in developing and implementing solutions.
It's about recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and that we need to draw on a variety of perspectives and knowledge systems to find the best path forward.
Exactly. The third principle, respectful human-nature relationships, underscores the need to shift from an exploitative relationship with nature to one based on reciprocity and respect. It's about recognizing that we are part of nature, not separate from it,
Right.
and that our well-being is intrinsically linked to the health of the planet.
That's a profound shift in perspective. It's about moving away from the idea that we can dominate and control nature to a more harmonious and interconnected way of being.
Precisely. And finally, adaptive learning and action highlight the importance of being flexible and responsive to change.
Okay.
We need to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
and that we need to be open to learning from our experiences and adjusting our strategies accordingly.
So it's about embracing uncertainty and being willing to course correct as we go based on new information and feedback.
Exactly. These 4 principles provide a framework for achieving transformative change.
Okay.
And for UPSC aspirants, understanding these principles can be incredibly helpful in analyzing case studies, formulating policy recommendations, and even answering ethical dilemma questions that often feature in the exam.
It's like having a set of guiding principles, a compass to navigate the complex world of environmental policy and governance.
I like that analogy.
It seems like this report is a real game changer for UPSC preparation, providing not just facts and figures, but also a deeper understanding of how to approach these challenges in a holistic and transformative way.
I couldn't agree more. It encourages critical thinking, systems thinking, and ethical reasoning,
Right.
all of which are crucial skills for success in the UPSC exam.
And for creating a more sustainable and just future for everyone.
Well said.
This deep dive into the IPBES Nexus report has been incredibly enlightening, especially for our UPSC aspirants who are grappling with these complex issues.
Yeah, it's a dense report, but it's full of valuable insights.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
but there's still more to explore. So if you're finding this conversation as fascinating as we are, be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a like.
We'll be back in a moment to wrap up our exploration of this groundbreaking report and discuss what it all means for the future. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been exploring the IPBES Nexus report,
Yes.
which highlights the interconnectedness of global challenges
You're right.
and the urgent need for transformative change.
Yeah.
It's been especially insightful for our UPSC aspirants
Yeah.
who are looking to connect the dots between environmental issues and sustainable development and effective policymaking.
Absolutely.
And one of the most compelling aspects of the report is its focus on solutions.
Yes.
It's not just about doom and gloom.
Right.
It's about highlighting the opportunities that exist for creating a more sustainable and equitable future.
I agree. It's a very hopeful report in that sense.
You're right, and that's a refreshing perspective.
Yeah.
The report doesn't shy away from the challenges, but it also offers a sense of hope by showcasing the potential for positive change.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the key solutions that the report highlights?
Well, the report emphasizes the need for synergistic approaches,
Okay.
which means finding solutions that address multiple challenges simultaneously.
So it's about finding those win-win-win scenarios where we can maximize positive impact across multiple areas.
Exactly. It's about moving away from siloed thinking and embracing integrated solutions that create a ripple effect of benefits across different sectors.
I'm curious about some specific examples of these synergistic approaches.
Sure.
What are some of the solutions that really stood out to you in the report?
One example that comes to mind is agroforestry,
Okay.
which involves integrating trees into agricultural landscapes.
Mm.
This practice can not only increase food production, but also enhance soil fertility, sequester carbon, and provide habitat for a variety of species.
So instead of viewing trees as competition for farmland, we can actually integrate them into our agricultural systems to create multiple benefits.
Exactly.
That's a fantastic example of how nature-based solutions can be incredibly effective.
Yeah, they really can be.
What are some other examples?
The report also highlights the potential of renewable energy sources,
Yeah.
like solar and wind power,
Yeah.
to decarbonize our energy systems while also creating green jobs and reducing air pollution.
It seems like a no-brainer, right?
It does.
Reducing our reliance on fossil fuels not only addresses climate change, but also has positive implications for public health and economic development.
Absolutely. And the report also emphasizes the importance of shifting towards more sustainable consumption patterns.
Okay.
This means reducing our consumption of meat, minimizing waste, and making conscious choices that align with a more sustainable lifestyle.
These individual actions, when multiplied across millions of people, can have a significant impact on reducing our environmental footprint and driving demand for more sustainable products and practices.
Right. It all adds up.
And for our UPSC aspirants, this highlights the interconnectedness of individual actions, societal shifts, and policy changes.
Yes.
It's about understanding that creating a sustainable future requires action at all levels.
I agree.
It's like a three-legged stool.
Okay.
Individual responsibility, systemic change, and effective governance, all three are necessary for achieving a truly sustainable future.
Well said, and this report provides a framework for understanding these connections and for developing solutions that are grounded in science equity and a deep respect for the interconnectedness of life on Earth.
It's been a truly inspiring deep dive into the IPBES Nexus report.
Yeah.
I feel like we've gained a deeper understanding of not just the challenges we face, but also the incredible opportunities that exist for creating a more sustainable and just future.
Me too.
So for all of our listeners out there, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the IPBES Nexus assessment.
It's been a pleasure.
It's a call to action for all of us, from policymakers to everyday citizens, to embrace Nexus thinking, to champion transformative change, and to work together to build a world where both people and nature can thrive.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And for our UPSC aspirants, this report is a treasure trove of knowledge and insights that can help you navigate the complexities of these global challenges and formulate effective solutions. So dive into the report, explore its findings, and let it inspire you to be a force for positive change in the world. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations of fascinating topics that matter. Give us a like and share this episode with your friends together. We can make a difference. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.